Welcome to In the Zone, your mental strength and endurance sports podcast, presented by myself, Thierry from Dura Sports, and Micah from New Thrive.
Hi there.
All right, Micah. So this is part 2 of our season review episode. And how are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm looking forward talking to you about your season. You've had a fantastic season, have you?
Yeah, it's been a good year. I've had a really good year overall. I would say that's my best year ever.
Congratulations, man.
It's quite something, when you train well over a few years, and when you start to feel that you're at your peak. Not necessarily I'm at the peak, but I'm at the best, in the best shape ever. And that's so I guess we're going to talk about my race, the Ironman in Hamburg I did.
Mm-hmm.
But just to rewind a bit for the whole season, but in strength training, I've lifted the heaviest I've ever been able to lift, thanks to our friend Petri, who's just a magician. So anybody who wants proper strength training,
Yes.
Contact Petri. He's amazing.
Yeah.
I have my 5K running PB at Park Run. So I did that in 17 minutes, 10 seconds. That's pretty good. Had my highest FTP ever on the bike in the spring. Ironman personal best, we'll talk about that. And marathon personal best as well. So it's been a great year. Yeah, it's been a really good year.
Congratulations. It sounds amazing and really, I know, maybe the listeners, they don't know you or they don't know how hard you work for this, but I know you work so hard for this and you've been working towards these goals. And but let's just dive into your season now. What would you like to share with us? Shall we talk about the Ironman?
Yeah, I think we focus about the Ironman. We can touch maybe a little bit about the marathon at the end, but the Ironman was the main focus of my season. I usually try to do an Ironman every year. That's the big goal. And what I was really frustrated about the last few years is that I never had a good preparation for not a good preparation, but an uninterrupted preparation. Or something happening on race day. So I've had a lot of bad luck, if you want. And I know we talked about last time, and it's not about, the mistakes, not repeating the same mistakes. And I don't think I've made many mistakes in preparation. I've been quite unfortunate, So for example, in Austria, 2 weeks before, I had sinusitis. In Argentina, the wind was just insane. In Nice, I punctured twice. In Mallorca, I was bitten by a jellyfish. It's in Roth when I did it. Actually, that was a good race, but I was so busy with my previous job. I was only training 6 or 7 hours a week. So it was, and I finally thought, okay, this is a good opportunity to make all this happen. I backed myself with a lot of different things, and I really felt that this year was like the puzzle had been kind of put together. You work on different parts. You start with the edges, put the things by color, and then all of a sudden it makes that picture. And that really was that, and not just focusing on triathlon, but many other aspects as well. From the mental preparation, the recovery, all the stuff, which really helped. So no, I was really happy with the race, how it went.
Yeah, great. So what you're saying is, what was your preparation different this time? How can you make that a little bit more specific?
So the preparation, no, it wasn't much different than previous years. I would say I do keep quite a good shape of fitness throughout the whole year, so I don't go through the very lows. I do, of course, change my training and take a break, but I would say I'm relatively fit the whole year. It's just about the build up and doing the key sessions that you are you're going to imitate your race basically. And so this I did quite well. The tricky thing was that Hamburg is in June, beginning of June. So it's a very early race. The reason I have to do these early races is because in the summer I have the kids camps, and it's just impossible for me to prepare for these races, and to do a race in the summer. So I have to do an early one. The downfall is that you don't really enjoy the nice weather for your preparation. So that was really tricky. It's always tricky, but you're kind of thinking, oh, I've got time, it's February. Then in March, and you're like, oh, I've got time, but the weather's still not great, and you're like, whoa, I've only got 2 months left now, and I haven't ridden outside. So that's always a bit difficult. And I had put quite a strong focus on the bike. I do Zwift a lot, the racing and everything. So I was in really, really good shape. As I mentioned, my FTP had been the highest ever. So it's, I was really confident of my bike fitness. However, cycling on Zwift, great FTP doesn't mean anything really on Ironman. You have to stay in a very aero position, low watts for a long time. But yeah, I had done quite a lot of key sessions, and basically big loops around my area, just going on the aero bar, staying there for a while, these 3, 4, 5 hour sessions. I'd done quite a few, and so I was relatively confident on the bike. No, that was I haven't done really much anything different. Maybe there's the running. I kept it to fairly low volume until the end, where I ramped it up. And swimming was a bit. I didn't have a good year for swimming, so that's probably where I have to work on. But yeah, I got. I think it was in March or something. I had COVID, and that really put a stop in my preparation. I swam really well until March, basically. And then, COVID, 2-3 weeks off. Then I had my kids camps in April, 2 weeks off. And then I came back to swimming a bit early, and then I had a bit of a shoulder injury because I probably went back too quickly. So swimming wise was not the best preparation, but otherwise as a whole, the preparation was pretty good, with good weeks, good volume. Not too much, but on average between 10 and 15 hours a week.
What did you do with your confidence when you were not able? I mean, you had COVID, then your shoulder, so that you're saying you had a pretty good preparation. I'm happy that I felt like that. But if I listen to it, I get a bit nervous, thinking, oh gosh, how did you find back your confidence? Because it was quite just before your Ironman. So how did you deal with that?
So COVID was actually, it was fine. I wasn't hit really badly by COVID, and it didn't last very long. I probably took a whole week off after COVID, and then started gradually. But within 2 weeks, I was back to normal. So I was quite fortunate in that sense. I was quite scared of having, I had a few athletes who had this sort of long COVID, or that really harmed and could completely not ended, but hampered the whole season. So I was really scared of that, but power came back really quickly. So that was fine. Yeah, it did impact my swimming. You say the confidence. I think it was a few years. It's been a few years since I had this goal of doing sub 10 hours at an Ironman. And obviously, like I told you about, the wind in Argentina, or the sinusitis before Austria. I should have done that a few years ago, but I wanted to also be conservative about my approach. I was like, you know what? My target is to go sub 10. And if I don't need to go 9:30. I'm happy if it's 9:50, 9:59, that's fine, and once I get that sub 10, then you start taking more risks, and just get this under your belt. And then we can start thinking about qualifying for Hawaii, or, whatever. I wanted to really be, So I was really confident that I could do it. I just needed to execute that sort of minimum volume, minimum sessions to be able to do it. So I don't think I really stretched my goals, if you want. I think I could have probably aimed for a bit higher, but then when you aim for too high, then you run the risk of having, a cramp or different things, and you put a bit too much pressure on yourself, and if things go wrong, then you're highly disappointed.
Yeah. How did it go? I mean, can you talk us a little bit through the race?
So it was in Hamburg in Germany. The weather was great. And one thing this was the first time I did it for an Ironman, but I went there with a couple of friends. They're guys I coach actually as well. And we went there as a group of friends, and that was really, really cool. Sometimes you go to events with your family or you go on your own. And I mean, my wife has been extremely supportive of what I do. However, I don't know if she wants to hear another story about racing or an Ironman. And it's not always, when you have a family around, they want to do certain things and you can't because you have to race, etc. So you're not fully present with your family and you feel guilty. So going there with a couple of friends was really, really fun because we all had the same goal. We talked about the same thing. We had the same little, race nerves. So that was really, really cool. And actually, we're going, except another one will be joining. We're going to another race next year together as well because I think it was so much fun. So that was great. Hamburg is a great city. I'd really recommend people to visit. It's beautiful. We got there on, I think it was on the Thursday. The race was on the Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. Did my usual preparation over there, a few bike rides, eating quite healthily and everything. No, it was a good preparation going into the race. Felt quite confident and excited. I had done a lot of visualization exercises, so of me going through the race. That's something we worked on together, and that's something that really helped me to just go one step at a time in the race. I do a lot of the Wim Hof method breathing. So leading up to the race, I'm not saying I do it every single day now, but certainly when I have a key race, I ramp it up big time, a bit like training. And so the week of the race, I was doing that really daily, if not twice a day. And in the morning of the race, I did that as well. And it gives you great energy. So that's and it relaxes really your mind. So it's a fantastic tool.
Do you also do the cold bath then, or?
Yes. Yeah, that's something I had done the whole winter as well.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so go to the lake quite regularly. I had an ice bath as well at home, where I used to take the snow from the Jura after skiing, and I just keep it, put it in the ice bath at home. Now I upgraded to a real ice bath, but before it was just a just a big garden thingy, whatever, that you put water in.
Do you recommend people to do a course or to do at least something to learn the technique?
Yes, I would say so. So my friend Alan Kant, he's a Wim Hof instructor, certified Wim Hof instructor. He's based in Lausanne, does the workshops. That's how I got there. I did a few workshops with him. Just a phenomenal experience. I really recommend it. But obviously nothing stops you from going on your own, but you have to be mindful of the dangers. Going in cold water is dangerous, especially if you're going to the lake on your own. So if you go to the lake on your own, definitely grab like some sort of buoy or whatever, like a floating device that you can just grab onto if you don't feel well, or go with someone for sure, because on your own, I see sometimes people go on their own. That's fine. I wouldn't do it on my own, even as an experimented Wim Hof practitioner, if you want, but I wouldn't do it on my own.
No.
But yeah, it definitely helps. It really helps for the recovery. Definitely. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, the Saturday morning I did a little park run in Hamburg. That was good fun. There was a park run. So that was my little 5K, warm up run before the event. And we're lucky that in Hamburg you have great restaurants, lots of pizzeria. I mean, lots of different things. So we had, like you mentioned, and for your race, quite plain food. We had a great time. The only thing is that weekend was the end of the university, I think, in Hamburg, and there was university parties the whole night, and that was quite annoying. Okay. So there's a lot of noise, but obviously you don't sleep well before. You have to wake up early, and it's like, wow, that was not great. But I woke up on race day, felt really good. My issue was obviously with the swimming. I knew I wouldn't have a great time because I was just not able to swim much. Like I said before, until March, I was swimming well. then COVID, then the camps, and then I got a shoulder injury. Well, shoulder, some rotator cuffs. So I worked on it with Petri, but I couldn't swim more in training than, I think my longest swim after March was 2 kilometers.
Okay.
It would start hurting after 1,000 meters. And it was really, really bad. So I knew that I would come into this race with really low swim fitness. And I had to expect 2-3 minutes, probably less. But, that's life.
How did it go?
And it went well. It went fine. Like I said, so I think I did 1 hour and 7 minutes or 1 hour and 8, which isn't great. I mean, my best is 104, I think, in Ironman, 104, 105. That's where I should have probably been if I had continued my swimming well, but it felt fine. I just didn't want to. It's a beautiful swim actually, and in the Ulster, it's like Hamburg is a port sort of city, but it's not by the sea, but it's just a sort of, I don't know how you call that really, but a quite clear water on the way out, and then quite disgusting actually on the way back. You go through the canal. Okay. And you could feel that the watercolor was completely changing, and you could smell the yuck of the fritteuses and all the oil and the things like, wow, that was only a few 100 meters, but that was really rank. Anyway, got out of the water, felt fine, and the transition is so long. It's like a one straight line with just bikes on either way, and you have 2,000 people. So you can imagine 1,000 bike on the left, 1,000 on the right. It was huge. Luckily, my bike was right at the end, so I could run to the bike and just basically take the bike last. So that was quite nice. The bike went pretty well. I had a plan. Basically, it was to ride around 200 and 210 watts, something like that, which is quite conservative, but it's a completely flat course.
Okay.
So and it can be a bit windy, but it wasn't too bad on the day. And I had set myself a auto lap on my device, was to have an auto lap every 9 kilometers, sorry. Because my goal was to basically go on the bike under 5 hours. So if I just go back a little bit, if I swam 1 hour 5-ish with the transition, that's an hour and 15, bike 5 hours, then brings you to 6:15, run 3:30 about, and you add all these things, it would get me basically around 9:45 to 10. That was the sort of the goal. So the goal is really to bike 5 hours, and to bike 5 hours, you basically have to do the 9 kilometers in 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I had, every time I could see 9 kilometers, I could see if it was 14 something or 13 or 15:30. And I knew how I was on target. Quite early on, again, one of my bottle dropped. So that was quite annoying. It was, it's in the city, you have a lot of these potholes and things. And yeah, so I lost a little group, which is unfortunate. So basically I was in a little group, and then obviously they were gone. I had to go back, get my stuff, so, and it's just a bit annoying. Luckily the bottle didn't open, so I still had my drink, because my nutrition plan on the bike is I don't take any more solids. I just take liquid. Mm-hmm. So I have one bottle, which is like a syrup. So I take about 100 grams of carbs, which is about double portion of a normal bottle. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine that bottle is highly concentrated, because I have 5 bottles worth of drinks just in that one bottle. And then I pour it in my front system, and then I take water from the aid station, and that creates like the mix. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I was quite lucky that bottle hadn't, dropped and basically been leave everything on the floor. Yes. So that could have been a disaster.
And you train this also, this rhythm of pouring something in your front bottle and then pouring water in it?
I don't train it on my training sessions, because I don't really have anywhere to take water apart from probably a fountain, I guess. But I've done it in all my races, so I'm really used to doing that. But when you go on a training ride, you can bring as many bottles as you want, really. Whereas on the race, I just wanted to be with just two. One for drinking, one for the syrup, and that's it. Nothing else, because you want to be as light, aerodynamic as you can. To avoid, for example, the bottle in the frame. I have a frontal one and one at the back, so just to be as slipstream as possible. So things were going really well. Every 15 minutes it's kind of ticking along. I was in a really, really good group, actually. And it was very crowded, I must say. I will admit that I don't think I was within the legal 10 meters all the time. But it was I would say it was just impossible to do it, because as soon as you left a gap of 10 meters, someone would slot in and you'd have to go back, and then slot in, and you have to go back. And it's so frustrating. And then you end up at the back of the group, and then there's a split in the group, and then you're gone and you stay with a slow group rather than a big group. So it was a bit frustrating, but when the wind picked up after halfway, that's when things really started to separate the different riders, and then we were fine. There was just basically there was like 3-4 of us for the second half, which was very windy at the end.
Okay.
But the difficulty, you did your race in Geneva where you have a hill, come back down, and then you back on the flat. This one was flat, like not one hill. Okay. So you have to be in that aero position all the time.
Yes.
And that was the biggest challenge, I would say, because you're not used to that. Even when you train in Switzerland, even on the lake road, which is supposed to be flat, you'll have moments where you kind of, you cross a town, you go up, and then you go. So that's been a really challenging thing.
What was challenging? Was it physical or mental?
Both, but I guess physical. To stay in that position, the neck, the whole time in that position is really tiring. You don't really have because the moment you stand up, you lose like 5 kilometers an hour. Yeah. So you're so inefficient. So I'm not sure if I'm really keen on signing up for another completely flat race.
No.
But it was fine. It was it went really well.
How did you keep your focus throughout those 180K?
For me, I did 9 kilometers at a time. Okay. That was it. That was through with my watch. Just these 9K at a time. Try not to see the course in its bigger picture and the 180K. I knew at the end, of course, it becomes a bit boring, and you're just like, okay, I've got to be there. But when you know you're coming back towards the city, okay, you can stand up a bit more, you can be a bit more relaxed. But it was really just 9 kilometers at a time, and that's it. Really small steps, staying with the group in front, and not be carried away, looking at the power, and that's it. That was it. It was quite a lonely race, because you go so far out, you have almost no spectators. Only in the city of Hamburg you had the spectators, but that's just a few kilometers. So in that sense, it was a little bit lonely. I was happy. I basically did my time about 4:58 for the bike ride. Yeah. So that's a really good. Good. Yeah. So I knew I was really on target. Yes. After I had done my bike ride.
So you came back from the bike ride and you knew that you were on schedule. How did that feel? What did you think?
So it feels great. You feel really encouraged. You feel motivated. You feel a sense of relief. For me, the fact that you also didn't have a puncture or mechanical. Actually, the bottle fell a second time again in the second round. So I had 2 times. So I probably lost around 3-4 minutes just because of that. So I could have done even better, but but it didn't let me. It didn't really affect me too much. I try to. But no, you feel great, and it's always a relief when you and that's funny, because that's my favorite part of the triathlon, is when you get off the bike, you rack the bike, and you start running. That's my favorite moment. I love that. The start of the run is just you're like, now it's only me and my feet My legs, that's it. There's nothing mechanical, you're not in the water, you're not on the bike. It's just running.
More in control.
It's the purest form of that sort of fitness and of the sport. And I love that moment. And it felt good. It felt pretty good. My energy levels were great. The crowds in Hamburg were huge. It was really, really in the city center. It was really big. So that was really motivating. And had a really good run. I mean, I felt good, and I knew that basically I think I had around 3 hours, and if I ran a 3:40 or 3:45, something like that, it was done. So my pace was, 5 minutes per kilometer to run a 3:30 marathon. Mm-hmm. And even the first few kilometers, obviously, as you do, you run a bit faster. I tried to limit, but I was like, this is crazy. I mean, it felt so easy, and I really had to slow down. And I did. And again, same tactic that I had on the bike. I used an auto lap, but for 4 kilometers.
Yes.
So, and I knew 4 kilometers, that's 10 laps. More or less 40K for the marathon. Yeah. And I knew that if I was running within 20 minutes, 4 times 5 K, that's the 4 minutes per K. That's 20 minutes. That was my pace. So again, focusing 4 minutes at a time. Yeah. For 4 kilometers at a time. Sorry. The other reason is that sometimes when you have a lap every kilometer, if you have an aid station, or if you have a few turns, then your watch will say, 5:20. And then it's like, oh no, if you feel down, it's like, shit, I've got to accelerate now. Whereas if you put it on 4 or 5 kilometers, it evens out a lot more. And I was never looking at my current pace. That was not even on my watch. It's only average pace of the 4K.
Exactly. Yeah, and I do that as well. Yeah.
And that really, really helps to get away from the constant beep of the watch, and you can focus on just being relaxed and doing that, looking at the bigger picture, really.
Yes. Yeah. So it's small steps while looking at the bigger picture.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And nutrition wise, it's a bit of a survival stuff in Ironman. You'll probably soon discover. I think it's highly personal. There's obviously people who I know, for example, you were saying you eat a lot of food, a lot of solids on the bike. I just cannot. I've learned actually that through trial and error, really, I cannot eat. I have to drink it because the eating will just sit on my stomach and it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And on the run, I've sometimes forced myself to do a lot of eating or let's say gels and things, and it hasn't necessarily worked so well. So I rely much more on liquids again. But I said at least the first 20 kilometers, I had to take a gel, 2 gels. That was my goal, 2 gels. So they gave the Morton gels, which are I don't know if you know them. It's got them here. It's like this gel here. Okay. That's the sort of Ironman sponsor, which is helpful because they give. So I didn't have to carry it.
Okay.
Which was great. So I use other gels I use some other gels in different events, but for Ironman, when you need that burst of energy now because you're completely depleted, you want something quite sugary.
Yes.
And
also, I think that's also maybe to say it's very personal. You have to test that. You have to test that.
It depends the intensity that you go at, for sure. Yeah, if I had gone much slower, I wouldn't probably need it, and I would take a different gel. But for these ones, I knew they would give them away, so I didn't have to carry it. Didn't think so. That was more of a sort of practical approach. And I was basically, but I also told myself, I know some tactics say walk the aid stations, and that's what you've done.
Yeah.
But for me personally, when I walk the aid station, something happens to my body that my body's like, oh, I like this pace. I really like this walking. And when you start running, it's like, no, I don't want any of that. And let's go back to walking.
Yeah, I agree.
And the moment I walk, I want to walk more. It's like a vicious circle, and it's horrible to get out of. So for me, I said, you know what, the first 20K, not allowed to walk. Not allowed. Obviously, you leave yourself flexibility, but I said, you run, you grab the drink. It was a grab a drink, whoof, Coke or Red Bull, down it, then water, splash it, gel, done. Next one. And that was every single aid station. I would do that apart from the gel. I took 2 gels in the first 20K. Actually, first 20K was 2 gels plus water mostly. Okay. And then the last 20K, I said, you know what, now, the last 20K, no more gels because it's just too late now. Mm-hmm. And I just take Red Bull and Coke. And I was alternating between Red Bull and Coke, and it worked really well. So I was, nutrition-wise, that was fine. Perhaps if I want to go a bit faster, I have to change that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I didn't have any stomach upset or anything. So that was great. And it's funny because, I was running at the aid stations all the time, and I could see the guys who were stopping. They would walk and take the time, and then they would overtake me. And then again, the whole thing, was a start-stop. And I think it was quite frustrating from them because I was just always ahead coming out of the aid station, and they felt they had to catch up. Whereas I was just running at my constant pace.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so that part was, I think that was well prepared.
Interesting how because it's true. Sometimes people who start Ironman, they are applying, I think, sometimes the approach or the strategy where they do a combination of walking and running in case that they're really tired. And it's a proven approach. Yeah. So, and it can be extremely successful and much more successful than if you would just, continue running and then at the end just collapse. However, it's true that for some people, and I fully agree with you, because I actually didn't stop at I just forced myself to at least use the aid station, but I couldn't stop because I got cramps. But then still, it's true that if you are someone who is just suffering from stopping because the body just does not want to accelerate again, then you should never do that approach.
Yeah.
So it's just not for everyone. And you rather tell yourself, just pace yourself and keep on running rather than having this, nervous slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up, because that will take a lot of energy from you.
And absolutely, yeah. The acceleration part is just horrible, and you have in Ironman, you have normally aid stations every 2 or 3 kilometers.
Yes.
So there's so many that if you say I walk the aid stations, well, you're gonna walk a lot, and you all of a sudden you're like, well, I can walk, it's fine, and that's exactly what happened. Well, I was ill, but in Austria, that's exactly what happened. You say walking, and then you say, I'll start running at that post, and then the post comes, and you're like, actually, that's going to be the next one, and the next, and it. So for me, it worked well. But it was the first time big change for me was a nutrition. So liquids only, and then that pacing strategy for the bike and the run really, really, really helped me. I think that was, but I know on the run, I felt fine. And I was great. I was perfectly on my target for the first, half marathon. I think I did it in 1:42 or something like that, 1:40 or 1:40, whatever even. So, I was ahead of my target. Mm-hmm. So, and then I started obviously to slow down a little bit. I could see.
Yeah.
But I had this decision to make, whereas do I try to rectify that? Do I try to accelerate again back to the old pace? Or do I just accept and, add a buffer? And I decided that, what, I'm here to do a sub 10. That's my goal. I don't need to do, 9:45. So I accepted that I would run slower, and my pace faded more to like a 5:30, maybe for the last, 10 to 15K, which basically you're losing, 30 seconds. So for 10, that's five. I lost between basically 5 and 7 minutes, I would say. So again, I went from a 9:45 and eventually finishing in 9:53, but I had plenty of time. So I decided not to risk it, because if you keep that pace hard, what if you cramp and then all of a sudden you're on the side of the road, you can't move, and then your thing is gone.
Yeah, it's such a pity.
I just did not want to risk at all, anything. And I said, you know what, just stay disciplined, just run, get to the finish line. And next one, you can think about risking more and just give, because now you've done it, and I just wanted to have that. But it was a beautiful run course, and it was nice because you had this, you started in the city, then you went into this beautiful park. There was quite a lot of people, but it was a bit more calm, nice running surface. And then you came back to city to get the buzz of everything. And it was a 4-lap course. And I really enjoy when you have many laps, because you see things, you can again divide the course into more. So even though I had my 4 kilometer at a time, I was almost like, okay, now we're running the city part. Okay, now I'm running the park. Now I'm running the city again. And even within 10K, I could divide that. So that really helped. No, it was, so wow. Yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, this is such, at one point you passed the finish line, and then what happened? What do you feel?
You feel just an extreme sense of pride, I would say. I was just so proud of myself.
And you saw the time.
Excited. Yeah, you see the time. I knew the time, and I knew I had plenty of time. I didn't have to sprint. I didn't have to, there was kids, you give high fives to some kids and all that, to everybody. And I just took the time to enjoy it, to enjoy the run on the red carpet there. It was a phenomenal feeling. I would say there's no other feeling than an Ironman. It's just extraordinary, that the feeling when you cross the line, because you're exhausted, mentally, physically, everything. And it's such a huge sense of relief that, your whole preparation, the race, everything comes to an end. And it's like, wow, it's like almost this, you have this outburst of emotions all of a sudden that gets released. And that's why I love this sport. It's just to get these emotions, to get that high.
Yeah.
And I was extremely proud. And I wasn't so emotional. I was actually quite just relieved, I would say, and ready for the next challenge. I was just more, okay, I've done it. I know I can do it. It was like confirming that, you can do it. No, you really can. So, and then I had my 2 other friends on the course as well, so I had to
they were still busy.
They were still on it. So so I quickly had to went to the to the sort of buffet area we can eat and all that. I met some other guys. We were talking. It's just great fun, camaraderie. And then I went back on. You could take showers and everything, and it was it was great. I mean, it was the best shower I've ever had in my life.
Yes.
And then went on course to support the guys, and I was just limping away, trying to run next to them and encourage them. But it was good. It was really good fun, and they had a good time as well. So no, the 3 of us had good races. So overall, it was a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. You make it. I mean, the way you explain me makes me want it even more. So
yeah,
it's really nice what you're saying about these emotions, because basically, maybe that's what I was trying to say when you ask me about why an Ironman, or why these kind of distances, because it's all about the emotion. It's about experiencing the emotion, which I also experienced during my time that I did a lot of mountaineering. It's such a satisfaction and such a fulfillment and so much emotions at the same time, that both good and sometimes not bad, but like when you're suffering and when you don't have the confidence or you doubt, but that's this whole package is what makes you want it, basically.
Exactly.
Pretty cool. So what's next?
Yeah, I mean, it's so shortly after the race, I mean, I don't think we'll have much time to talk about this, but I had also signed up to do the Lausanne Marathon, and with a couple of friends, and we did. The goal was to go sub 3, because one of the guys I coach, he had attempted sub 3 in February, and he did 3 hours and 8 seconds. Like, can you imagine? And so we had signed up for that, and I said, look, we'll do it together. So I did it. And unfortunately for the race, but fortunate for him, his wife gave birth to a child a week of the race, so he couldn't join the race. But I did it with Jasper, a guy who's coaching with me at the kids camps in the summer, and he's a great runner, 2:35, 229 marathoner. He did it in London. We had one of the last podcasts was with him. And so he was pacing. For him, it was just like a walk in the park, you know. And I didn't have the best preparation, because in the summer I just basically almost do nothing because I have the kids camps. So it's really difficult. And I trained okay for the running after, but it wasn't the best. But we did it, you know, in 2:58, and I was really, really happy to do that. So I knew I had this target of doing that sub-3, which I think is an important step towards as well the Ironman journey, because if you want to run fast in Ironman, you have to run fast in non-Ironman. And I'm not going to dedicate too much time to running, but I mean, try to, it was a step in that direction. So I was really, really proud again to have done that sub-3, which was and Lausanne is a tough course.
I saw you. You were really flying.
Well, you saw me at the halfway, so that was. You're always
flying.
Still flying. At 21K, you're flying. You know, at 33K, I was not flying at all. It was tough. But you know, there's many things again that I'm looking at for next year. So I think this year for me in Hamburg was a great opportunity to test a lot of material, you know, and test myself and see what am I learning to go faster next year. So I signed up for an Ironman again in Austria. So that will be 18th of June. And I know there's a couple of there's 4 of us going, actually. 2 guys I coach. One, Danny, who came. Danny, I remember Danny. We had him on the podcast. So he was in Hamburg with me.
Yes. Cool.
He's coming again in Austria next year. We also have Arturo from Spain. And then we also might have George from the UK. I don't coach him, but he's a good friend of mine from the triathlon camps I did a few years ago. So there's going to be 4 of us, and that'll be amazing experience. And I've done this race, so it's the first time I go to an Ironman where I have already done the race.
Yes.
But I was ill 2 weeks before the race, so that was not a great race for me. The swim is beautiful. It's in a clear the water is amazing in Austria. It's just beautiful. Then the bike ride is beautiful, and it's a bit more towards my strength because it's a bit up and down. So the bike is my strong point. And here,
there, the other way.
The other way around. Yeah. This way, this way is my new bike. So awesome. I'm hoping to have a nice time. I got it at Le Cercle in Nyon. Who've been working on my bikes as well, preparing the bikes as well. Tom from Velo Clean, I have to really absolutely give him a shout out because he prepared the bike absolutely beautifully. But yeah, this is the new purchase. I'm hoping to go even faster now with this bike and improve my setup and the aerodynamics, which are huge now in triathlon. You know, the pros now are going way faster for the same effort that they were 10, 20 years ago. And my bike was almost, 13 years old. So it was time to upgrade. And I had a good bike ride. So I thought, now I deserve a new one.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's going to be Austria.
Cool. Yeah.
And I look forward to it. I think I know what I need to work on.
Okay. What is that?
So for me, the challenge on the swim is always going to be a challenge, mostly for time, because it's so time consuming to go to the pool, whatever, and all that. So there I have a bit of a challenge, but over winter, I've got these, maybe here you can see, I've got like little paddles. Yes. So I do a lot of indoor swim, and you can, you see behind me there.
You have to swim.
That's Zen 8.
Yes, Zen 8.
This thing there. So it's the thing, and you basically stand on it, and then you put the cords on the door, and then you just kind of swim like that. So I'm doing quite a lot of that.
Okay.
With only once a week swimming when my girls have their lessons.
Yes.
But when we'll get out of the winter, my plan is to really do much more open water. And there you don't waste any time because it's just,
Oh.
and it's of course much more race specific.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be my key, the key for swimming.
Yeah.
The biking will be.
Just a question about the Zen 8. I see more and more people using that. Do you recommend people to start training with that? Okay.
I would. Yeah, it's a really good tool. I really like it. It's obviously cannot replace swimming full time, but it does work quite well physically for your shoulders. But the most important thing actually is that you sit on this, so you lie on this thing.
Yes.
And to basically bring the paddles, you have to have the right technique.
Yeah.
So it forces you to have good technique to bring them back. Because if you don't have the right technique, let's say you go back down with your arm straight, you'll hit the floor.
Ah, okay.
So if you bend your elbows and create that sort of diamond shape under the water, that's what you want to really have the pull. Where you have where you push real hard to get the power. So it forces you to be in that sort of
position.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And also because you're on that, it's like an inflatable thing.
Yes.
So it does move. So if you lift your legs, you'll engage your core.
Yes.
A lot. And that's my problem. I snake a little bit when I swim, and basically then so hopefully that will improve.
Oh, I see many benefits. Really cool. Yeah, nice.
Good. And it's you do a workout, it takes 20 minutes.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't have to. You think 10 to 20 minutes, and you have a good workout. So I try to do now almost every day when I don't swim.
Okay.
Yeah. So it doesn't take that long, and it's a good warm up. It could be a warm up before you run as well.
Yes.
Just to do a little. So that, and on the bike will be to use this bike. Over winter, I'm not going to use it that much. I've got some rollers at home. I normally do a lot of Zwifting. But I will of course, do a lot more long rides. I think that's something, even though I had good preparation, sometimes, you think, the 3 hours, fine, 4 hours. It's got to be a good 5 hours bike ride to really have the proper preparation. You have to feel that you're going off the bike thinking, I've done that many times, fine.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So probably a lot more of that. And then running wise, I use a thing called Stride. It's a power meter for running.
Yeah.
And that is really, really helpful. I really recommend that as well for people, because it takes out the other effect like hills and wind. So it's a power meter. So essentially I'm going to run at, 300 watts. If there's a hill, well, I'm going to slow down because otherwise my power will go really high. And same thing with wind. So you train more the sort of physiological aspect of what you're doing as an effort rather than as a speed.
Okay.
Because if you do an interval and you go with the wind against the wind, then the effort will be completely different.
Yes. Okay.
So you train much more what you should be doing as an effort for your race, whether being time pressured. So that's helped me quite a lot.
Okay, that's cool. How do you relate your watts against your form? I mean, because on the bike, you have your FTP. Would you have that as well?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You have a critical power that you use.
Okay.
You do tests. Okay. You can do a 5K race or a 10K race. You can do a 3 minute, 9 minute. There's loads of different protocols. Okay. Obviously, the closer to the hour you are, the better. The same for FTP. The more accurate it will be. And then you have these zones which are derived from that.
So you work with watt zones now.
Yeah, I work with zones for power meter. For watt in watts rather than speed.
Yes.
Obviously, some sessions you still need to do with pace, but for us in the area, for example, especially at the beginning season, it can be very windy and it's actually a bit hilly. So
it is.
You can ruin your training by going way too hard. And in Ironman, it's all about keeping the effort, the intensity very similar, so that you can sort of keep on your training. So if all of a sudden you have 2 kilometers uphill, the next day, you might have a few niggles or here and there, whatever. But if you really slow down to keep that same power, then you'll you won't feel it as much.
Yeah, good.
So and the goal will be to. I think the goal will be to go between 9:30 and 9:45, but with a strong aim for 9:30.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I think the swimming will be relatively similar. I will aim between an hour and 5.
Okay.
Probably an hour and 4, an hour and 5. I think that would be good for next year. The bike will be closer to 4:45, I would say. 4:45, 4:50. And I really am going to put a lot of risk on the run and going for not 3:30, but like a 3:15. Oh. So yeah, 3:15, 3:10 to 3:15. Okay. So that's going to be the aim. So if you think about it, that's going to be about 20 minutes saved on the run. Wow. Maybe 10 minutes on the bike. So about 30 minutes quicker.
Wow. That's quite a lot.
Yeah, but then now I can risk it. I'm in a position where I don't, because my goal, I'll put it out there. My goal is to one day qualify. My goal is one day to qualify to Hawaii. That's my goal one day.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I'm not going to take any glory in saying, oh, whether I have 9:35 now or 9:45 doesn't really matter. I might as well just go for the stars and go for that 9:30-ish. That puts me in a potentially a contention for a roll down spot.
Yeah.
And I just need to risk it. Otherwise, there's no point.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Yeah, you have to risk it. You have to explore what's possible.
Yeah.
But then you risk that you get cramps or something goes wrong, but still.
That's life. Okay for you. Yeah. That's not okay. That's okay because I've got my sub 10, whatever. And even if you go from, exactly. But wow, we'll see. It's always easy to say now, but on the race day you feel always a bit different. But
yeah, of course.
Yes, that's the big goal for next year is the Ironman in Austria.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, you're gonna share throughout the year with us where you are at and how you feel and what you're doing well, what you're not doing well and gonna change. Maybe that's interesting also for the listeners because like eating or trying to beat your PR with 30 minutes is quite a lot. Yeah. And I'm really curious how are you going to execute that in the training. So maybe we could just have a catch up.
That's of course. Yeah. But bear in mind that previous race was I was conservative, I think. Mm-hmm. So now I'm just being aggressive. So obviously you go from the really, the minimum result to maybe now the maximum result. So obviously there's a big spread. It'll probably meet in the middle somewhere in reality. Yes. But absolutely. No, but I think the key things will be to focus on the different aspects, but also keep on doing the strength work. I've started again now. The mental aspect for sure. That is still doing that visualization of the course, which for me is very important. How you deal with the different voices in your head when you start running and when you want to slow down. Especially that will be really difficult. When you go for a very aggressive target.
Yes.
And I've purchased now an ice bath, so I do that a lot more often.
Oh, nice.
So
you have an inflatable one.
The breathing. No, it's a proper real. It's like a jacuzzi but with cold water.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So and the breathing, the Wim Hof breathing, which so these are the things where I really want to get. Yeah. Consistently good at. And that's what I think. Again, I know I asked you last time about your key takeaway from that race.
What's your key takeaway?
For me, I think it's the consistency of training over the last few years that have made me arrive where I am now. I think for sure if you want to become professional, then it's like another level of complexity. But for amateur, the key thing is consistency. If you can train versus not train consistently, the difference will be massive. And I see it with quite a lot of people. And it's about being organized, being, of course, I'm not saying the people who are not training as consistently, they're not dedicated, because they really want to do it.
Yeah, of course.
But it's the consistency of training over the years really, really helped me. Yes. I think that's what I've been good at over the last few years.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's really this consistency, and you're also patient and you trust yourself and the process. Because if you do not trust the process, it's really difficult to be consistent. Because if you start to doubt, then you're gonna adapt, then you're going to hold back or speed up too much, and then the consistency is just being well, you put that in question, and then the consistency is lost, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Nice.
Cool.
Thank you so much for sharing.
No, thank you.
Very inspiring. Very inspiring. And
I try.
I would love to hear throughout the years, when you start training again. Seriously, I know you continue training now, but I would love to hear how you're doing. And we're going to definitely catch up.
Exactly.
Have more podcasts also on this topic.
Absolutely. And for the listeners, if you've made it to this point, well done listening to me and talking about my race. But if you guys want to let us know about your race, what are you racing? What is going to be your target for 2023? We'd love to hear about it. And like I said in the part 1, if there's any topics that you'd like us to cover, please send us something. We'll try and cover that the best we can. So Micah, how can people reach you? How can people talk to you, reach you by email? You Thrive?
Yes. So they can write me an email, they can call me, send me a WhatsApp. They can also visit my website, of course. Yeah. I've also another website on mental preparation and sports psychology, Psycho et Sport. But we'll share all the information in the podcast.
Excellent. All right. And yeah, if people want to know more about myself or the coaching or KISS camps, it's jurasports.com. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you very much for your time, Micah, today. Thank you to the listeners for listening and made it all the way here. And we'll see you guys very soon.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.